我往你那挪了。
哦，没事。那个鼠标我怎么知道？它这灯全开了吗？啊，这灯已经全开了吗？
全开了，这个点还不开。我看前头有点亮了，
感觉有点暗了。 还可以，不是最强。
没什么影响，其实是有影响，但是没有关系加了，一点一点加，一点加多少天实现，我觉得是有一些影响的，再加上没实际中的时间没谈判安全，其实总体影响没那么大。
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Welcome to today's press conference of the State Council Information Office. Today, we will give you a briefing on our regular performance of the national economy, and we have with us Mr. Linghui, Spokesperson and Director General of the Department of Comprehensive Statistics of the National Bureau of Statistics, who will brief you on the performance of Chinese economy in April and answer your question of active interest. Now I'll give the floor to Mr. Linghui. Good morning. As a practice, I will brief you on the main indicators of the Chinese economy in April and answer your questions. In April, the Chinese economy withstood pressure and delivered stable growth, despite the complex situation of greater impact of external shocks and compounded challenges and difficulties in the internal landscape. Under the strong leadership of the CPC Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, all regions and departments faithfully implemented the decisions and plans of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, adhered to the underlying principle of pursuing progress while ensuring stability, faithfully implemented the new development philosophy, accelerated the building of a new development paradigm, and made solid efforts to promote high-quality development. We stepped up efforts to implement more proactive and effective macro policies and effectively responded to external shocks. As a result, production and demand saw stable growth. The overall employment remained stability. New growth drivers accumulated and grew. The national economy withstood pressure and delivered a sound and stable growth, continuing its strength, momentum of improvement. First, industrial production saw a relatively fast growth. Production of manufacturing of equipment and high-tech manufacturing industry grew steadily. Value added of industrial enterprises above the designated size grew by 6.1% year-on-year, up by 0.22% month-on-month. Mining industry grew by 5.7%, manufacturing up by 6.7%. The production and supply of electricity, thermal power, gas and water up by 2.1%. The value added of equipment manufacturing and high-tech manufacturing was up by 9.8% and 10% year-on-year, 3.7 and 3.9 percentage points respectively faster than the value added of all enterprises above the designated size. State holding enterprises was up by 2.9%. Shareholding enterprises up by 6.6%. Enterprises funded by foreign investors or by investors from Hong Kong, Macau, and Taiwan was up by 3.9%. Private enterprises was up by 6.7%. 3D printing devices, industrial robots, new energy vehicles saw their production up by 60.7%, 51.5%, and 38.9% respectively. In the first 4 months, the value added of all enterprises above the designated size was 6.4. The PMI was 49% in April, and the production and operation expectation index was 52.1%. In Q1, the value added of all enterprises of the designated size totaled 1.5094 trillion RMB yuan, up by 0.8% year-on-year. In April, the ISP was up by 6.0% year-on-year. The indices of production of information transmission, software and information technology services, leasing and business services, wholesales and retails and finance up by 10.4%, 8.9%, 6.8%, 6.1% year-on-year respectively. 4.4, 2.9, 0.8, and 0.1 percentage points respective faster than the ISP. In the first 4 months, the ISP nationwide was 5.9%. In Q1, the operating revenue of service enterprises above the designated size was up by 7% year-on-year. The business activity index for services was 50.1%, and the business activity expectation index for services was 56.4%. The total sale of consumer goods was 3.714 trillion RMB yuan, up 5.1% year-on-year and 0.24% month-on-month. Total sales in urban areas was 3.2376 trillion RMB yuan, up by 5.2%, and that in rural areas was 4.7% increased. By consumption patterns, total goods of retails posted 3.3007 trillion RMB yuan, up by 5.1%. Catering income totaled 416.7 trillion RMB yuan, up by 5.2%. The basic necessities and some upgraded goods saw good growth. Retail sales of grain, food, and oil, sports and recreation up by 14% and 23.3%. With major national strategies, the retail sales of household appliances, audiovisual equipment, culture and office supply, furniture, telecommunication equipment by industries above the designated size up by 38.8%, 33.5%, 26.9%, and 19.9% year-on-year, respectively. Social retail totaled 16.1845 trillion RMB yuan in the first 4 months, up by 4.7% year-on-year. And online retail totaled 4.7419 trillion RMB yuan, up by 7.7%. Online sales of physical goods totaled 3.9265 trillion RMB yuan, up by 5.8%, accounting for 24.3% of total retails. In first 4 months, the retails of services up by 5.1%. National fixed assets investment, excluding rural households, totaled 14.7024 trillion RMB yuan, up by 8% year-on-year. Deducting investment in the real estate, the figure was up by 5.8%. Infrastructure investment was up by 5.8% year-on-year. Manufacturing investment 8.8%. Real estate development down by 10.3%. The floor area of newly built commercial buildings totaled 2.7035 million RMB yuan, and the floor space was 182.62 million square meters, down by 2.8%. Newly built commercial building totaled 2.7035 million RMB yuan, down by 3.2%. The investment in primary, secondary, tertiary investment was respectively 13.2, 11.7, and increased, and 0.2% decreased. Private investment was up by 0.2. Investment in private sector up by 5.8. Investment in high-tech sectors was up by 40.6, 28.9, 23.9, and 17.6 respectively. And the month-on-month increase was 0.8%. Total trade was 3.8391 trillion RMB yuan, up by 5.6% year-on-year. Exports was 2.2645 trillion yuan, up by 9.3%, and imports was 1.5645 trillion yuan, up by 0.8%. In the first 4 months, total trade was 14.1389 trillion RMB yuan, up by 2.4% year-on-year. Exports was 8.3938 trillion yuan, up by 7.5%, and import was 5.7452 trillion yuan, down by 4.2%. General trade in the first 4 months was up by 0.6%, accounting for 64% of total trade. Private enterprises up by 6.8%, accounting for 56.9% of total trade, up by 2.3 percentage points than the last month. Mechanical and electrical products was up by 9.5%, accounting for 60.1% of total trade. The urban surveyed unemployment rate was 5.2% in the first 4 months, remaining flat compared with last year. The urban survey unemployment rate was 5.1% in April, down by 0.1 percentage point than last month. The urban survey unemployment rate of a population with local households registered 4.2 percentage points, and that of non-local household registration totaled 4.8%, and that of non-local rural household registration was 4.7%. Unemployment rate in 31 major cities were 5.1%, down by 0.1 percentage point. Total employees worked 48.3 hours per week on average. In April, the CPI was down by 0.1% and up by 0.1 month-on-month. Prices for food, tobacco, and alcohol was up by 0.3%, clothing up by 1.3%, housing up by 0.3%, articles and services for daily use was up by 0.2%, transportation and communication down by 3.9%, education, culture, and entertainment up by 0.7%, medical and healthcare up by 0.2%, other services and items up by 6.6%. Fresh vegetables down by 5%, grain down by 1.4%, and pork up by 5%, and fresh vegetables, fruits up by 5.2%. The core CPI, deducting energy and food, was up by 0.5% year-on-year, and the first 4 months CPI was down by 0.1% year-on-year. The PPI down by 2.7%. Year-on-year and month-on-month. The purchasing price index for industrial products was down by 0.6% month-on-month, and the producer price and purchasing price for industrial products were down by 2.4% year-on-year. In general, despite external shocks, the coordinated efforts of macro policies have ensured a good momentum of stable growth. But the uncertainties and instability remain, and we need to make efforts to further consolidate our foundation. Going forward, we must follow the guidance of Xi Jinping thought on socialism with Chinese characteristics for an era, implement the decisions and plans of the Central Committee, ensuring implementing the general principles of our economy, develop new development philosophy, a new development paradigm, strike a balance between our economic work and international trade struggle, manage our own affairs well, redouble efforts on re-stabilizing our economy, and deliver high-quality development. Now the floor is open for questions, and please identify your media outlets. How do you rate the economic performance in April? In April, there was abrupt changes in the international landscape, which is also your active interest. The international landscape in April was more complex, with greater impacts of external shocks and the difficulties in ensuring stable economy. Under the leadership of the CPC Central Committee, all regions and departments faithfully implemented the decisions and plans of the CPC Central Committee, and the State Council stepped up efforts to implement more proactive and effective macro policies, strengthen domestic circulation, and effectively responded to the external shocks. Our economy withstood the pressure and delivered a stable growth, maintaining and sustaining the momentum of improvement, which showed the great resiliency and preparedness of our economy. Here are the key features of the economy. The first is the relatively growth of production and supply. The macro policies have taken effect. The value added of industry enterprises above the designated size in April was 6.1% year-on-year, which was a leading figure compared with monthly figure in last year. The manufacturing in the equipment sector continued its relative fast growth. Its value added contributed to the overall industrial growth of 55.9%. The service industry remained stable. The ISP was 6.0% year-on-year, which was a second high since the beginning of this year. With digital transformation and more tourist and transportation flows, the information and business service saw a growth subsequently. The indices of service production, of service transmission software and information technology, leasing and business services was up by 10.4% and 8.9%, which were all relatively rapid growth. Consumer goods trading programs released effectively, maintaining a stable growth of market sales. The last month saw a year-on-year growth of total consumer goods retails of 5.1%. The trading programs have acted as an important buttress of the increase of consumer goods retails. With regard to the retail services, it was up by 5.1% in the first 4 months. By implementing the national strategies and enhancing security capacities in key areas and the dual renewal programs, the investments was expanded. In the first 4 months, the fixed assets investment was up by 4% year-on-year. With large-scale equipment upgrades, 18.2% of investment in equipment and tools procurement has been achieved, accounting for 60.4% of total investment. We have been making efforts to promote trade with Belt and Road partner countries, showing our resilience. Total trade in the first 4 months was 2.4%, which was 1.1 percentage points faster than Q1. We have imports and exports growth of 3.9% with Belt and Road partner countries, up by 1.7 percentage points. Mechanical and electrical products saw a accelerated growth of 11.6% year-on-year. And we have cultivated and prospered new growth drivers and make pinpointed efforts to promote key groups in terms of employment and innovation. The surveyed unemployment rate in urban areas was 5.1%, and down by 0.1 percentage points than last month, which was a decrease of 2 consecutive months. In the first 4 months, the urban service unemployment rate averaged 5.2%, remaining flat year-on-year. High-tech investment, the value added of high-tech manufacturing about the designated size last month was up by 10% year-on-year. The aerospace equipment and inter-circuit manufacturing was up by 21.4 and 21.3% year-on-year respectively. With the driving force of AA+, the digital economy was booming. The value added of digital products was up by 10%. And in April, the new energy vehicles and charging stations were up by 38.9 and 43.1% respectively. Despite the greater shocks in external landscape, while our economy remains stable, with great strength, resilience, and good potential, we have improved our development quality, which was a boost in our confidence and strength in rising above risks and challenges. But we need to remain clear that there are still changes, uncertainties in the international landscape and compounding interplay and intertwined risks and challenges. We need to make further efforts to consolidate our good momentum. Going forward, we need to implement major national strategies and pinpoint efforts on stabilizing economy, industries, market, and expectation, strengthen our national circulation, and ensure and protect our livelihood. Next question.
The data on consumption is a key focus. Has the consumer market maintained recovery? And in terms of the structure, which sectors grew better and what should be improved? Thank you for your question. Since this year, the international environment has been complex and there has been growing external challenges, and there are blockades in domestic circulation. So boosting consumption will help us better respond to external challenges, keep domestic circulation smooth, promote economic recovery, and also improve well-being and reinvigorate development. All regions and departments have implemented the decisions and instructions of the CPC's Central Committee by enhancing the equipment renewal and consumer goods trade-in program and carrying out special campaigns to boost consumption and driving market sales, increasing service consumption, and supported economic recovery and growth. In April, the policies continue to take effect. The market has grown steadily and new drivers were expanded. First, the market sales rebounded steadily. In terms of the aggregate, the retail sales of consumer goods and the sales of services both rebounded. From January to April, the total sales of consumer goods grew by 4.7%, 0.1 percentage points than Q1. Retail sales of services grew by 5.1%, higher than 0.1 percentage points than Q1, and it grew by 2 months in a row. And second, sales relating to the trade-in programs went up significantly. As this new policy continued to be implemented, it has significantly driven the sales of consumer goods. In April, the sales of home appliances, audiovisual equipment, cultural and office supplies, furniture and communication equipment grew by 38.8%, 33.5%, 26.9%, and 19.9% respectively, all faster than the increase of commodity retail sales, greatly supporting the increase of market sales. Third, the sales of some basic living goods and certain upgraded goods grew fast. Growing demand for consumption quality also resulted in growing sales. In April, the sales of grain, oil, and food of sports and recreational articles and of jewelry grew by 14, 23.3, and 25.3%. Fourth, the consumption in tourism and transportation services grew fast. Driven by the demand in the holidays, the service consumption such as tourism, transportation, and communication grew fastly. From January to April, the sales of transportation, communication, and information, tourism, consulting, and renting sustained two-digit growth. Fifth, new drivers for consumption maintained sound growth. With the rapid growth of ICT and improvement of logistics and delivery, new business models like online sales and instant sales are welcomed by consumers. For the first 4 months, online sales of physical goods grew by 4.8% year-on-year, faster than the increase of consumption goods. To sum up, the policies have continued to take effect, and market sales continue to grow, but the internal driving force for consumption still need to be enhanced. Going forward, we need to continue to implement special campaigns, enhance citizens' consumption ability, increase high-quality supply, improve consumption environment so as to better unlock consumption potentials, promote healthy economic development, and improve people's well-being. Thank you.
Since the beginning of this year, there were abrupt and complex changes in the international landscape. The unilateral increase of tariffs of the United States on China.
From May 10th to 11th, the two sides held a high-level meeting on economic and trade affairs. The two sides agreed to substantively lower the tariffs. So under this context, everybody is concerned on China's economy and its prospect. So from the next stages, the international environment will remain complex. There are many instabilities and uncertainties. Domestic cyclic and structural issues remain, but the fundamental sustaining long-term growth have not changed. The macro policies continue to take effect. All sectors are working together to tackle the challenges and respond to changes. There are many favorable conditions for the economic recovery. First, there is a good foundation. Despite growing external impact, the economy continued to recover in April. From the major indicators, market sales and services continued to grow. And in terms of the speed, the total retail sales of consumer goods and service production index grew by 4.7% and 5.9%, both 0.1 percentage points faster than Q1. In terms of the export of goods and industrial production, they remained generally stable. From the first 4 months, export grew by 7.5%, 0.6 points higher than Q1. Total value added of industrial enterprises above designated size grew by 6.4%, generally stable. Second, there is guarantee from the policies. Since this year, more proactive macro policies have been implemented. The major national strategies and equipment upgrading and consumer goods trading programs have expanded. They have boosted market demand, enterprise production, and also innovation and market confidence. For the first 4 months, the major production and demand indicators grew faster than last year. With the large-scale equipment renewal program, the first 4 months saw the investment in industrial equipment procurement grew by 18.2%, contributing to 64.5% to the total growth of investment. Recently, the RRR and interest rates have been further cut, and there have been new policy-based financial instruments rolled out to support SDI and boost in consumption. With these policies being implemented, they will effectively support the recovery and growth of the economy. Third, there is potential in consumption. All regions and departments have carried out special campaigns to boost consumption, including intensifying and expanding the equipment renewal and consumer goods trade-in programs, diversifying consumer scenarios, and so on, and it has been effective. In April, sales in household appliances and audiovisual equipment, cultural and office supplies, furniture, communication equipment, and building and decorative materials combined contributed to 1.4 percentage points to the growth of total retail sales. For the first 4 months, the sales in services grew by 5.1%, grew for 2 months in a row. For the May Day holiday, the number of domestic tourists grew by 6.4%. As these policies continue to take effect and new drivers continue to expand, consumer will facilitate more to the economic recovery. Fourth, there is the driving force from innovation. All sectors are integrating technological innovation and industrial innovation, encourage the transition from innovation to productivity, and innovation is playing a greater leading role, injecting new impetus to economic development. High-tech industries and new services have shown positive development. In April, value added of high-tech manufacturing grew by 10%, 3.9 percentage points higher than the total. In Q1, the revenue of enterprises' strategic new services above net size grew by 8.3%. Smart and green transition have picked up speed. In April, the value added of intelligent UAV manufacturing grew by 74.2%. The production of NEV grew by 38.9%, and emerging areas like AI models and humanoid robots have made breakthroughs. So with all these favorable conditions, China's economy is expected to maintain overall stable and will grow steadily. Thank you.
Investment is very important to expanding domestic demand. You mentioned increase in fixed assets investment. How do you view the features in this regard, and how do you view the investment space and potential in China? Thank you. Investment is an important part in expanding domestic demand. Since the beginning of this year, all regions and departments implemented the decisions and plans of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, promoted large-scale equipment upgrade and consumer goods trading programs with good and positive effects exemplified by investments. First, as the two key initiatives and two renewal upgrades have been taken effect, the investment potential has been continuously released. The investment in fixed assets saw stable growth. From January to April, the investment in equipment upgrade was 18.2%, accounting for 60.4% in total investment. The manufacturing investment was moving to medium and higher end, and the emerging industries accelerated. In the first 4 months, the investment in manufacturing was up by 8.8%, relatively markedly faster than all investment. And investment in consumer goods manufacturing and equipment manufacturing grew by 13.4% and 8.2% respectively. With the innovation integration of science and technology and industries, the high-tech service demand has been expanding, boosting investment in these industries. In the first 4 months, the investment in high-tech services was up by 11.3%, and among and within it, the investment in professional and technical services and information services was up by 17.6% and 40.6% respectively. With the issuance of local government special purpose bonds, local government investments have been playing their role fairly well, with investment growth in infrastructure up by 5.8% year-on-year, faster than all investment, and water conservancy management up by 30.7%, and waterborne transport up by 26.9%. The effects of major policies have been implemented and supporting effectively the investment. Going forward, we have great potential for investment and favorable conditions in investment. We are redoubling our efforts on innovation and cultivating of new and emerging industries represented by high-end equipment and AI. The second is the interplay of major regional strategies. Since the 18th national strategies, with the implementation of these policies, rural urban area coordinated development and the new type of urbanization have a lot of in terms of potential. The third is social well-being. There, despite the weak links in livelihood, we are committed to providing and safeguarding and improving livelihood and making more efforts in investments in this regard. We can see that the indigenous growth remained inadequate, so we need to follow through the guiding principles of the Central Economic Work Conference and the two sessions, make greater efforts in investment and improvement of investment structures, and delivered sound growth of the economy. China-US trade's impact has been an issue of active interest by you all. Chinese foreign trade withstood the pressure and delivered sound growth, which show the great resilience and our competitive edge in the international landscape. The total trade posted 2.4% in April, from January to April, up by 1.1 percentage points than Q1. The April figure totaled 5.6% of increase year-on-year, and the export growth of 9.3% remained its relatively fast growth. Despite China's trade friction with the U.S., China's exports and imports with ASEAN and the BRI countries expanded, supporting the growth of exports. China's trade with ASEAN was up by 9.2% in the first 4 months, up by 2.1 percentage points than Q1. China's trade with the BRI countries up by 3.9%, up by 1.7 percentage points respectively. Despite external shocks, the private foreign trade enterprises actively responded to the changes and with their diversification strategies with good effect. In the first 4 months, the private enterprises trade was up by 6.8%, up by 1 percentage point than Q1, better than the general trade. The electrical and mechanical products saw a good growth of its exports. Our trade has withstood the pressure for the following reasons. The first is the strong supporting strength of our industrial foundation. The well-founded industrial system with the manufacturing industry as the mainstay has taken up an important position in the global industrial chain. The second is the quick adjustments by foreign trade of China. Our diversification development of foreign trade is promoting on a steady manner, and our enterprises are making inroads in the international landscape and making good adjustments in trade frictions and supply shocks. The third is the supporting capacity of restabilizing foreign trade policies. All parties and regions have making efforts to redouble efforts on export, tax rebates, finance support, and trade and facilitation, among others. Next, the international landscape has been fraught with unilateralism and protectionism, and the growth has been hindered, but the prevailing trend of international cooperation and win-win will not change, and we will remain committed to expanding, opening up, and diversifying our foreign trade. What are the features of the value added of industries above the designated size in April, and how do you rate the development trend of Chinese industry in the future? Since the beginning of this year, with the effects of existing policies and the implementation of new policies, the coordinated efforts have been released. The industry production was growing fast and moving toward smarter, greener, and more high-end manner, providing able support for the high-quality development of the economy. All regions redoubled their efforts on promoting the industrial growth, maintaining a stable growth of the industries. In April, the value added of industries above the designated size was up by 6.1% year-on-year, maintaining a relatively high growth. Among all 41 major categories, 63 of them maintained a year-on-year growth. Second is the continued upgrade of industrial transformation. High-end movement was prominent, and high-tech manufacturing saw good growth. Last month, the value added of high-tech manufacturing industry above the designated size was up by 10%, markedly faster than industry growth. From sectors, the integrated circuits and optoelectric device manufacturing was up by 21.3% and 19%. 3D printing, industrial control computers and systems was up by 60.7% and 29.5%. The green and smart transition of industries have breathed new life in their development. The new energy vehicles and lithium-ion power batteries for automobiles was up by 38.9% and 61.8% respectively year-on-year. Smart products saw good growth. The intelligent UAVs and intelligent in-vehicle equipment manufacturing industries was up by 74.2% and 29.3% year-on-year, markedly faster than value added of all industries above the designated size. Industrial robots was up by 51.5%. The second is the effective implementation of two renewal initiatives. The expanded scale of these key national strategies have boosted the demand of technological upgrade and market demand. In April, the mechanical equipment for primary processing of agricultural products, specialized package equipment maintained two-digit growth, and the electric bicycle liquid crystal display screen saw good and rapid growth. In all, China's industrial production saw stable and relatively fast growth. With the implementation of key national strategies, the prominent trend of high-end, green, and smart development powered by innovation has been a key feature. But we need to be clear that many industries and enterprises have been confronted with challenges, and the industrial prices were operating at a low level. Going forward, we need to expand domestic demand, implement development strategies, promote the integrated development of sci-tech innovation and industry innovation, and better improve our structure, upgrade our industries, and cultivate emerging industries.
So in my briefing part, you have learned that in April, China's economy has maintained generally stable. So with growing external impact, some foreign trade enterprises have faced growing pressure, but in the overall economic performance, April's major indicators maintained steady growth, and employment has maintained stable. The new drivers continue to grow, green transition continue to deepen, and this trend has been sustained. So people have quite a lot of questions on this trend. So why China's economy has been able to maintain this steady growth? So facing external impacts, China's economy is able to sustain growth is thanks to the fundamentals, advantages, resilience, and potential, and thanks to the combined effects of the macro policies and active response from all sectors, and also the firm commitment to the high-quality development and fostering a new development paradigm. First, the economy has solid foundations, broad space for development, and strong resilience against pressure. China's economy is compared to a vast ocean rather than a small pond. China has a super large economy. Its GDP is the second largest in the world. The size of manufacturing has maintained the world's largest for 15 years in a row, and it has solid foundation in material and technology, complete industrial system, strong supporting capacities, and firm foundation in its economic development. At the same time, China's market is huge. We have 1.4 billion population, one of the largest consumer markets in the world, which is continuing to grow. All this has ensured the strong capability for China to tackle risks and challenges. And second, the commitment to high-quality development has provided firm support to proactive response to changes. Since the 18th National Congress of the CPC, it has taken into account the overall picture and made accurate assessment on domestic international development and made the major decision and instruction of pursuing high-quality development. We have stayed committed to promoting the adjustments of economic structure and growth drivers, fostering new quality productive forces in light of the conditions. And also facing a more complex external environment, we have stepped up the efforts to foster a new development paradigm, make industrial supply chains more resilient and secure, to keep ourselves well positioned for development. All these have provided important support for us to tackle the changes in the external environment. And third, as macro policies take more effect, they have played a key role in stabilizing the economy. Last September, the Political Bureau Conference decided to roll out a package of additional policies which effectively boosted the confidence and pushed up the economy. This year, more proactive policies, including existing and additional policies, have been intensified to expand demand, promote production, support innovation, and stabilize expectation. For the first 4 months, the total retail sales and service production index grew by 0.1 percentage points than the Q1. Fixed asset investment and value added of large industrial enterprises maintained steady growth. In April, transaction turnover of the Shanghai and Shenzhen stock exchanges grew by more than 30%. Facing external impacts, in late April, the Political Bureau held another conference and made important instructions on economic work, boosting social confidence. Fourth, all sectors are working actively to address challenges. Facing external impacts, they have firmly implemented the decisions and instructions of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, including leveraging the fiscal and monetary policies, accelerating the issuance and use of local government special purpose bonds and ultra-long special treasury bonds to make sure that key tasks are finished as early as possible. For enterprises affected largely by tariffs, timely and greater relief are provided to sustain the micro foundation for economic performance. Facing the high tariffs and its impacts, foreign trade enterprises have taken proactive measures, including diversifying the markets to ensure the steady growth of foreign trade. And for the first 4 months, the foreign trade grew by 1.1 percentage points than Q1. All these have shown that China's economy has solid foundations, the development has been effective, and the system has advantages, policies have provided support. We have the capability, conditions, and the resolve to tackle all kinds of risks and challenges. In April, the CPI went up month by month, but core CPI grew by 0.5%. So what is the main reason, and what is your assessment? Thank you. The change of CPI is also a key issue. In April, the CPI dropped year on year and grew month on month. It's generally stable. It went up 0.1% year on year, same as last month. Among 8 major categories, 7 went up and 1 went down. The prices for transportation and communication went down by 3.9%. This is because the drop of international oil prices has transmitted to domestic prices. In April, energy prices dropped by 4.8% year on year, 2.2 points larger than last month. The petrol prices dropped by 10.4%, pulling down by 0.38 percentage points of the CPI. The CPI in April grew by 0.1% month on month. This was driven by the rise in food and transportation services. The prices of some meat, aqua products, fresh fruits grew month on month, driving food prices up by 0.2 percentage points month on month. With rising demands and holidays, the prices of plane tickets, vehicle rental fees, and hotel and accommodation and tourism grew by 3.1% to 13.5% month on month. Since food and energy prices are subject to short-term factors, so when we look at the price changes, we need to focus not only on the overall changes of the CPI, but also on the core CPI. In April, core CPI, excluding food and energy prices, grew by 0.5% year on year, the same as last month. Service prices went up by 0.3%. The prices of industrial consumer goods, excluding energy, grew by 0.4%, both remaining stable. For January to February, March and April, the CPI grew by 0.3, 0.5, and 0.5% year on year. So there's a steady increase. This shows that the macro policies are taking effect. Expanding domestic demand is pulling prices higher. We should also note that the prices still remain at a low level, which increases the burden of enterprises and affecting citizens' employment and income. So to maintain the price within an appropriate range is crucial. Going forward, we need to give further play to the combined effect of macro policies, further expand domestic demand, deepen supply-side structural reform, improve the economic circulation, continue to regulate market order so as to promote the recovery of prices. In April, the PPI went down month on month, but with the campaigns boosting consumption and the growth of high-tech industries, there are changes in certain industries. So what is your assessment on that? And what will the PPI grow in the next stages? Thank you. As international energy prices and the prices of some domestic sectors went down, the drop of PPI in April saw a slight increase. In April, it went down by 2.7%, 0.2 points higher than last month. Even so, with macro policies continue to take effect and market demand continue to grow, the prices of some sectors have improved. First, there's stronger demand in high-end manufacturing. With economic structure improving, there's greater demand for high-tech products, giving rise to the prices of relevant sectors. In April, the production prices of wearable smart devices grew by 3%, of plane grew by 1.3%. With smart and digital development, the prices of some digital products also went up. In April, the prices of integrated circuit packaging and testing services grew by 2.7%, and servers grew by 1%. Second, policies boosting domestic demand are driving prices up. The equipment renewal and consumer good trading program is giving rise to the demand of some consumer goods and equipment, which is in turn driving a rebound in the prices. In April, the year-on-year decline of the prices of washing machines, new energy passenger vehicles narrowed by 0.3 and 0.2 percentage points compared to last month. That of electrical machinery and special equipment for electrical machinery and for agriculture, forestry, animal husbandry and fisheries narrowed by 0.7 and 0.2 percentage points. Third, some traditional industries have improved domestic and demand and supply. The iron, steel, smelting and rolling and non-metallic mineral products narrowed by 1.4 and 1.0 percentage points compared to last month. These have shown that the policies are taking effect and new quality productive forces are improving the demand and supply of industrial products. We should also note that the PPI remains at the downward range. The decline in some sectors is large, which affects the efforts of industrial enterprises to improve performance. So we need to further expand domestic demand, promote technological innovation and industrial innovation, refine the industrial capacity structure to achieve high standard domestic balance of supply and demand, bring industrial product prices back to the proper range, and improve business performance, boost confidence, and promote the healthy and sustainable economic recovery and development. Under current economic environment, the stability of the job market is crucial. So what are the highlights in employment in April? So what do you believe? What more measures will be taken to promote employment? Thank you. The stability of employment concerns all households. The CPT Central Committee and the State Council attach great importance to stabilizing employment, and they have rolled out policy measures for high quality and full employment, supported businesses in creating new jobs, and focused on key groups such as the young people and rural migrant workers. Since this year, China's economy has grown steadily, industries have been positive, and new drivers have begun to grow and expand. The policies have been strengthened to support key groups in employment and entrepreneurship. In terms of the changes in unemployment rate, affected by the Spring Festival in January and February, the urban unemployment picked up a little bit, but after the Spring Festival, as companies increased their operation and more rural residents began to look for jobs in urban areas, the job market has been more active. In March and April, urban unemployment has continued to drop. In terms of the overall picture of April, the urban unemployment rate has gone down. It was 5.1% in April, 0.1 percentage points lower than last month, and it has gone down for 2 months in a row. On key groups, the surveyed unemployment rate of migrant workers and young people has gone down. In April, the rate for people with non-local agricultural household registration was 4.7%, 0.3 percentage points than last year. The surveyed unemployment rate for people aging between 16 to 24, excluding students, also dropped for the second month in a row. But there is still structural employment problems. On the one hand, there is huge pressure of the young people, and on the other hand, some industries find it difficult to find new workers, especially there is gap in frontline skilled workers. At the same time, the changes in the external environment is posing new pressure on our job market. So against this background, we need to focus on our own work, firmly and earnestly implement the decisions and instructions of the CPC Central Committee and the State Council, redouble our efforts to stabilize and expand employment, to promote full employment, increase employment quality, and improve people's well-being.
Judging from the released data, how do you rate the performance of the real estate market in April, and how do you view the real estate market going forward? Thank you for your question. Your colleague also talked about the real estate, and now I would like to introduce this sector. It remained stable overall, but there are a varied situation in different localities, which are impacted by different stages of development and demographic patterns. But overall, the real estate market was stable. Since the beginning of Q4 last year, all regions and departments faithfully implemented the decisions and plans of the CPC Central Committee on stemming the downturn and restoring stability in the real estate market. They issued a series of policies of stabilizing the real estate market, supported the essential and improvement-oriented demand, lowered the purchasing cost, and achieved positive effects. Since the beginning of this year, these policies have taken effect and moving toward stability going further. And the transaction and prices remained stable in April, and there were uptick in the activity in some Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities in terms of transactions. First, as these policies are implemented, there were stabilized improvement in the sales of real estate market. The floor area of newly built commercial buildings were down by 2.8%, down by 0.2 percentage points than the Q1. In 14 monitored major cities, the floor area and sales volume of newly built commercial residential buildings were up by 0.1% and 2%. In April, the Tier 1 and Tier 2 cities saw flat growth, and the Tier 3 cities show a slight decrease. So these sales shrinkage continue to decrease. In Tier 1, 2, and 3 cities, the price for newly built commercial residential buildings were shrinked by 0.7, 0.5, and 0.3 percentage points respectively, and second-hand building shrinking by 0.1, 0.5, and 0.4 percentage points respectively. As the real estate market sales warms up, the inventory and new construction has been decreased, and new constructions showed an improvement. In April, the the floor area sales-ready commercial buildings decreased more than 5 million square meters than March. In the first 4 months, the newly constructed buildings decreased by less than 0.6 percentage points than Q1. In overall, we have broad perspective for old residential commodity improvement and real estate construction with our stabilized real estate market. But we need to know that the real estate market is undergoing restructuring and remodeling, with further potential to be released in terms of essential and improvement-oriented demand, and some pressure in some areas in terms of inventory reduction. We need to work harder. Going forward, we need to fully implement major strategies of the CPC Central Committee, actively respond to the major shift in the supply and demand relations in the real estate market, make coordinated efforts, improve the provision of good households, and upgrade our cities with affordable housing and improve livelihoods. That's all for today's press conference. Thank you for coming.